you need to be really organised and plan really efficiently for pretty much getting your tooling and your materials in and out without dramas and without having guys sitting on site and costing you money.
Fireproof, the Passive Fire podcast, where we delve into the world of passive fire protection. Join the PROFINISH team as we dig into the issues we see on site and in our industry every day, and find out how you can save time, money, and headaches on major construction projects. All right, welcome back to the podcast. I'm Russell Whiteford. I'm here today with Kane Sewell, one of our project managers at PROFINISH Fire Protection. How are you, mate?
Good.
That's good, mate.
How are you?
I'm good. We're going to be talking about Melbourne Place today, a project that we've completed in the past. We're going to use this as a bit of a case study. You've just done a short case study video on it, and we thought it was a really good opportunity to turn that into a podcast. So I'm going to run through a little bit about basically start to finish. So from a marketing or lead perspective, sales, product delivery, people, quality, we'll talk through each point, and we'll give everybody a brief overview of Melbourne Place, how we've worked with the project team and how we've sort of worked together at PROFINISH to deliver a product for the client. So we're working with ADCO on this project. Do you know much about the early stages, like how we found out about the project or, how we came across this one?
Yeah, I believe we completed a job previously for the product manager. It was Icon Park, I believe. A little bit before I started here, but just before.
So Icon Park redevelopment with ADCO was one of our was quite a big job where we did a similar system, and I think that referral is always one of the best places to get leads from when you've had a successful project already with a client. That increases the chances of turning that into the next project. So you're spot on there. So we worked with Darren, one of the senior project managers from ADCO. And they were more than happy to give us an opportunity. It was still a competitive process. Obviously, it always is, and we're lucky enough to win this job. So do you know much about the design process? Did you get involved as we were still quoting the project and working through that?
I was a little bit. I was asked a couple of little questions regarding pretty much the system floor and how that will work in relation to the framing that was already on site.
Yeah, okay.
The more detailed aspects of the system were handled by obviously our sales team. Yeah,
so just from a sales point of view, like I know Jaden, who our sales manager, he actually worked quite a bit on this project. There was some pressure from the client just around budget, and whenever often there is a budget constraint on projects. There's a lot of areas that budget can blow out. So we were looking at every option to reduce scope. Do you want to, before I talk maybe further about that, do you want to talk about what the scope was?
Yeah. So the original scope was a system floor fireproofing system around a steel floating mezzanine. And obviously the columns below and above connecting to that mezzanine had to be fully fireproofed as well.
Yep.
So regarding the install, obviously it was ProMat board to columns, and we have our ProMat ceiling wrapping around the mezzanine, connecting into a fibre cement flooring system, as well as a ProMat fireproofing system, which is double layered.
Yep.
And all this has to be kind of interconnected and all joined together regarding columns, beams, flooring, the whole lot. So.
Yeah, that's right. And so the outcome here is that we're protecting the structure. We're giving a fire rating to the structure, and we're creating a barrier where we're protecting or we're stopping fire from above and fire from below.
Yeah.
Do you know the reason why this is required in this part of the building?
From what I have knowledge on, it's the hotel lobby. So obviously, if you have people maybe on the top of the mezzanine in the lobby, and you'll have obviously people walking down below. I believe there is a kitchen in the area as well. So that actually that brings on the certain challenges as well, because you obviously have like your electrical systems, your smoke systems. So you don't want any of that. If there is a fire, you don't want the fire spreading or the smoke spreading to obviously areas where people might get crowded really.
Yeah.
So
Or to prevent people from being able to get out of the building.
yeah,
But I think, you're spot on there. So, whenever you're working in, hospitality areas within buildings, usually have an increased fire rating requirements. Where there's an area, I think, where there's a bar, there's kitchen facilities, there's, fridges and all sorts of equipment there that are going to be in that space, which increases the risk of fire. So one, we've got to protect the structure so that, if there was a fire in that area, that structure doesn't lose its integrity. And the whole building potentially would be compromised if that would happen. And secondly, we've got to create that fire barrier or be able to contain the fire to that area if there was a fire. So coming back to some of the, one of the constraints being budget, scope, and really clearly defining the scope was obviously a key thing initially. And I know that we were trying to work with the building surveyor on minimising the requirement as much as possible. But at the end of the day, there was a requirement there, or we had to build that to code, and we had to ensure that was going to be a deemed to satisfy system. So, do you continuing on with scope? Do you know any other problems that we might have come across during that scoping phase? Was there any sort of design challenges?
Yeah. Obviously, being a floating mezzanine, you want it to be aesthetically pleasing. So, curved steel generally is a tricky one when you have fireproofing that needs to be visible. Obviously, especially promo board, very tricky to obviously install it on a curved angle, which we managed to complete. It took some time, but we managed to get it down right, and it looked really good.
Yep. Is that the ceiling component?
Yeah, so it's the ceiling ceiling interface into the flooring where you have the vertical beam.
Yeah.
So the ceiling obviously returns up into the flooring, and it creates the barrier between ceiling and floor.
Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah. Additionally to that, the mezzanine framing, obviously being built on site and not prefabbed, it was a lot of like the flooring and the ceiling had to be kind of built section by section, as the whole lot wasn't one equal level.
Yep.
So it was a little bit of a challenge there, as well as having to complete the flooring first. We had to obviously tether to a concrete slab 10 metres away and complete flooring section by section, and in order to create that safety barrier around the mezzanine.
Yep. Yeah, okay. So, look, all of those things, when we're talking about passive fire, everything that we do has to be as per a tested system. At the end of the day, there's no fire tests that are testing for curved steel, flooring, and ceilings. So that's where we talk about, it has to be as per a fire test, essentially a deemed to satisfy system. Based on the principles of the fire test, this application should meet the fire test. And that's where the fire engineer and the building surveyor are signing that off. So curved walls, that obviously threw up a challenge, and curved steel. The floor joists and beams within the ceiling were all different sizes, which is kind of what you're talking about, building it sort of bit by bit.
Yeah.
If we simply just fixed to the structure that was there, the ceiling would have been all different levels.
Yeah. Yeah, it creates a bit of a problem for the services getting fixed underneath as well. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we actually had to I suppose, build that out as part of the fire rating package.
Yeah.
So I think, like, if we move into sort of the product delivery or the project delivery phase, maybe just give people an idea. What's a typical process for us in terms of site mobilisation, typical lead times. What do we do first in the? So think about if someone's got a passive fire project or they're looking at using our services right now. Let's talk them through how we would roll out a project.
Yeah. So before this project, I was in close contact with a site manager overseeing this build, and actually it took around 3 site visits for us to actually go through the programming for this work to actually get it down down and right in regards to booking in ourselves and other subcontractors. So after 3 site visits and me going through each section, we booked in material, tooling. Material on this site had to be pretty much had to have a material delivery plan. It took 4 separate delivery runs. Obviously, being in the CBD, there is no or hardly any material laydown area. So pretty much whatever we're doing for 3 to 4 days had to be delivered, and then after those 3 days, had to get another delivery, and then another delivery booked in. I was booked in maybe 5 days beforehand. So everything had to be planned at the start of the build. And going forward, our tooling, cutting of our material had to be in a designated cutting area, which had to be planned previously before we started. Regards to lead times, from my handover of the job to my commencement, it would be about 4 weeks. 4 weeks relating to when they could get us in there to start.
Yeah, okay. So that was more lead time on their side?
Yeah. So it's more me and their site team planning and programming that build. Obviously, materials, deliveries and everything, and safety rules on site.
Yeah. It's quite a complex pre-planning phase, this project, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is, especially CBD throws around a fair few challenges.
Yeah. So just logistically making sure that everything is mapped out on site. So where you're going to be working, like you said, cutting rooms, access, everything like that, access equipment, and then deliveries. Like there's a lot of risk for downtime or wasted time, if you're not sort of meeting your plan.
Yeah.
So obviously that's one you had to stay really close to. What did we do first then, and then how did the project progress? Just really quickly.
Yeah. So obviously basic programming. We went columns, ceiling, beams, flooring, and then columns above the flooring. Yeah. So it was just your standard procedure.
I was going to say, is that a typical process? Is it? So working from below and heading up.
Yeah, well, obviously you want your you want to get your columns done. So when you do your ceiling, you can get the interface between the column and ceiling nice and neat. Obviously, you can go if you go ceiling and then you butting up your column promat into your ceiling, it might be a bit not as aesthetic. So it's really about how nice you want it to look. Obviously, in this one it was in just 2 stages. So we had our south section and then we had our north section.
Yep.
Obviously, that just took some more planning, but maybe it was about maybe 5 days in between hand where we finished the first stage, and then we had a bit of a 5-day downtime, and then we came back and we finished the second stage.
Yep. Okay. And think about this type of work, like the type of skill set to carry out this work is really sort of it's a little bit of a plastering / carpentry skill set. Why do you think a builder would give us this work compared to maybe the plaster company or the carpentry company that's working on the project?
Yeah, I think it's just really the range of products that we can install. Obviously, we have not just our system floor component where we have our columns, ceiling, floor, and beams, but we also have our we had intrumescent paint getting installed on site. Yep. We had vermiculite spray getting sprayed on site. Yep. So it's like the amount of materials that we could deliver to kind of alleviate the builder's problems. I think that kind of just made us a good choice.
Yeah. Okay. So we're able to package up other works into the package. It's one thing that we left off the scope actually was the intrumescent. I know that probably came later on. There was intrumescent to some columns.
Yeah. So they had some kind of like some aesthetic columns that they wanted to leave open.
Some exposed structural steel.
Exposed steel, obviously. So an intrumescent paint, you can get a good finish on that and you don't have to cover it with a promat board or anything.
Yep. So, so if people want that steel look, which is definitely something that's more common nowadays, then we can achieve that with an intrumescent paint. And there was some vermiculite spray too, which again would be protecting the structure for steel that maybe is not going to be exposed, so hidden away.
So when you have like your maybe like your bolt brackets to precast, or maybe like your not so exposed steel that you just need done quickly, or it might be in a hard to reach area where you can't really get your tooling and that in to actually install some board. A vermiculite's a good option.
Yep. Cool. I mean, obviously the ceiling and flooring was the largest part of the scope, and the other stuff was quite small. But I think we also actually did it, maybe a couple of day labour books for penetrations as well.
Yeah, so in the kitchen area, we changed the design of our system floor to include a couple of duct penetrations, which we had to, obviously, once you cut into the system floor, you have to fire rate up the vertical return of it for the duct to go through. And then that the actual penetration of the duct, and that duct needs to be fire rated coming off that system floor.
Yep.
So whatever surface is going through the system floor needs to be have that same fire requirement.
Yep, as the floor. Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you can see there's quite a lot of complex products and systems being used just on one job, and I think your knowledge is really good of all of those different systems, mate. So working through, I suppose what were some of the QA ITP systems that we had to provide to the builder?
Yeah. So starting off pre-install, we had to develop a inspection and test plan, which had to be provided to the builder. Obviously, that outlines how the system will be installed and the certifications and the spacings and the specified fixings in that system. Yep. Which then moves into our quality management, which during the install, our workers, they use a software where they can track and log the work that they do. Yep. And it comes across in a report that can be easily submitted through to the builder in stages or in one final report. It's up to them. Yep.
So just with that software that we're using, we would have had plans uploaded in the software. Yep.
Yeah.
And the guys are able to identify an area on the plan where they've done a quality assessment, take a photo, and select that passes or fails as per the requirements of the ITP.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And then we can provide that as a report that shows here's all the areas that were tested as part of our quality assessment, all the locations on the plan, all the photos, and we can submit that to show that we're meeting the requirements of the ITP.
Yep. Yeah.
So, when it comes to internally within ProFinish, obviously you're running point on the project, but do you want to talk about, from a people point of view, what support do you get within the company when you're working on any project or this project?
Yep. So obviously coming from sales, they have that background of knowledge through the quoting process. So ideally, all that knowledge is passed on to me, which obviously, if we ever needed, might go into some smaller details, some fire systems and that. I can go back to them. They might have that wealth of knowledge. That might have communications with the builder. Additionally to that, through ITPs, certification reports, plans, we have our admin team who obviously they provide a good helping hand in obviously just the documentation of plans, certifications, pretty much anything. And in addition to that, our logistics team is pretty much can help us with whatever we need in regards to deliveries, material requirements. Obviously, the stages required and the bookings required. You need to be really organised and plan really efficiently for pretty much getting your tooling and your materials in and out without dramas and without having guys sitting on site and costing you money.
Yeah, that's right. 100%. I think it just, when you start talking about it, just demonstrates that it definitely takes a team to deliver a project. And it's not as simple as a project manager sending some guys to site.
Yeah, no.
And I think this is a really good example of that. And our admin team, they do a great job of putting together the handover information. So everything that the builder is going to need, which will include, it might include the ITPs, the quality management documentation that we talked about, the certificates, the test reports, the product guides. So you at the end of the day, you know exactly what you have installed and that it meets, the criteria that it needs to be certified by us and by the manufacturer. So is there anything else that you want to talk about regarding this project? Any fun takeaways?
I did get to go back there just a little bit ago to have a look at some other work for another contractor, and there is a portion of the job that has been maybe covered up that we were pretty proud of. So, so it was a bit of a sad point, but yeah, no, it all came up.
But you got to see the finished product.
Yeah, it all came up really good. Yeah.
Yeah. So it looks good.
Yeah.
Unreal. Well, I think we've covered a fair bit today. We're going to leave it at that. Thanks a lot for your time, mate. It was a really good case study on the Melbourne Place hotel project, what we delivered for ADCO Constructions. And if anybody is looking at a project that has a passive fire requirement or they have any questions, they can reach out to our team. They can talk to people like Kane or any of our sales team or our admin team. So thanks, mate.
No worries. Thanks for that.